Hi, I'm Erin Adams. I first got sick when I was a teenager. I was a senior in high school and I got mono. And I was on homebound for a year, and unfortunately I never recovered. Eventually I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and a ton of environmental allergies and food allergies. I was allergic to maybe 20 common food allergies where, you know, if I had one piece of lettuce and I ate it, my whole mouth would swell up and my stomach, like blisters would form on my stomach. So I was very ill. I was sick for 10 years, and actually during that time, I would say half of that time, I was completely bedridden. So it was very difficult. I was a Christian, and but at my church I was never taught, you know, about healing or that God could heal me. I did pray for healing, but I sort of assumed that if it was happening to me, then it must be the will of God. My turning point came when someone told me that Jesus could heal me. And this person gave me a book. It talked about how it was the will of the Lord for you to be healed and healthy and have an abundant life. At first, I threw the book across the room. I thought it was a little ridiculous. But actually, I picked it back up and I began to read it, and the Lord began to speak to my spirit. And I began to really believe that, you know, I think it is the will of the Lord for me to be healed and not stuck in this bed and sick, you know, day in and day out. So I had head knowledge that God wanted me healed, but I did not have that heart knowledge. I didn't know if it was going to happen for me or not. The lowest point during my illness, I had been, you know, really sick for many, many months, bedbound, and I knew that I was dying. I knew that my body couldn't sustain the state that it had been in for so long. And I decided to have a come to Jesus meeting with Jesus, and he did show up. And I remember I was laying on my bed crying and praying out to the Lord, and something came over me, and I knew it was the Lord. And I had this revelation come over me that just because I was really sick and just because I hadn't been healed yet, that was not the will of the Lord. And I remember sitting up in my bed and being so angry, but for the first time in my life, that anger was not toward God. It was toward Satan. It was toward the enemy. It was toward the killer, the stealer, and the destroyer, who I knew was destroying my health. And I sat up in my bed and I screamed to the top of my lungs. I said, "You have robbed me for 10 years of my life, and you are not going to rob me for another second." And I said, me and my body are going to serve the Lord, and this is not it. And when I said that, I actually had like a vision from the Lord where I was up against a wall, and Jesus came to me and he bent down and he said, "You're free, daughter." So I knew at that time the Lord had given me the word. He had given me the answer, that I was free. I was free from sickness, disease, anxiety, worry. I was free from all of it. And I truly was. So at that moment, I had this head knowledge finally come to my heart. And after that, I walked out every single symptom, and every time a symptom came on me, I would say, you know, "I'm the free of the Lord. I am the healed of the Lord. Symptom, you've got to go." And it actually did. And so that was 2.5 years ago, and from that point till now, I have been completely healed with absolutely no symptoms. And my life has completely turned around. Jesus is my healer.